Hello YouTube, how's it going? This is the crossover and I'm back with another video. Today's going to be my final individual scouting report for the 2022 NBA draft. I just want to say ahead of time, ahead of the video, thank you for all the support that all you guys have shown me throughout this draft process since about late August, early September until now. Mid-June is when I've been covering this draft, and this draft class will always hold a special place. It will always be near and dear to me since it was really the first that I've been full time on YouTube. And I think I've grown a lot, both as a content creator, as a person, and just the channel overall has grown so much since my first video on, I believe it was Chet Holmgren, back in August when I first got to college. And it's kind of cool looking back on all the individual scouting reports and seeing where I was throughout the course of this previous school year. And this was also my first year in college, so it's pretty cool to look back and just see how much I've grown and changed since August, which wasn't even a year ago. So again, it was all cool, but enough with the dramatics. Today we're going to be taking a look at Santa Clara guard Jalen Williams. So without any further delay, let's get straight into the video. Moving on, we do have some stats to discuss regarding Jalen Williams, as he is 21 years old, stands at about 6 feet 7 inches, weighs about 210 pounds, and has a 7 foot 2 inch wingspan. Now, that physical profile just leaps off the page or off the screen in this case. It's just incredible, to see. This is the only prospect that has similar measurements really to Jalen Williams in this class. I would say is maybe Marjon Buchamp. They're both about 6'7", with similar wingspans, so pretty similar physical profile to Marjon. However, they're both one of a kind in terms of physical profiles. Is usually you see wings like even your wings that are like 6'8", 6'9", usually they only have like a 7 foot, maybe a 7 foot 1 inch wingspan. But to see Jalen Williams be as long as he is and as tall as he is definitely impressive. Now moving on to the on-court stats, this was his third year and his junior year playing for Santa Clara, where he did average 18.8 points, 4.4 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 1.2 steals, half a block, and 2.1 turnovers per game. Very impressive counting stats. As you guys can see, he kind of contributed in every facet of the game. He was the leading scorer for Santa Clara. He grabbed a good amount of rebounds for them, and it was also, you see some of that secondary playmaking with Jalen Williams with the assist numbers. Didn't rack up as many, didn't necessarily create as many turnovers as you would like to see given his physical profile, which is something that we will discuss later in the weaknesses section. However, being able to garner the 1.2 steals is not bad, and with the half a block per game, being a guard that kind of showcases his capabilities, given that physical profile, 6'7" with that 7'2" wingspan, and even though he only did average 2 turnovers per game, his turnovers weren't necessarily terrible this year. However, he definitely does have a positive assist to turnover ratio, and I think the turnovers and overall playmaking something that we will discuss later. Moving on to the efficiency stats, they were very solid. 56.2% effective field goal percentage, which is solid, very solid given his usage and his role for Santa Clara, really being the only scoring threat out there. He also did shoot 80.9% from the free throw line, basically 81%, which is again very impressive. Bodes well for his shooting translating to the next level, and as well as his 3-point percentage, where he did shoot 39.6%. He nearly shot 81% from the free throw line and 40% from behind the arc. So that should just give you a glimpse into the caliber of shooter that Jalen Williams was for Santa Clara this previous season. Moving on to Jalen Williams' strengths as a prospect, first up, I do want to talk about his shot making, which I believe to be one of the more impressive parts of Jalen Williams' profile as a prospect, as especially coming off of screens, where he's off ball, kind of coming off, maybe a stagger screen, and he's able to catch right when he turns, and he's coming off the shoulder of that screen. He's able to just attack downhill. Jalen Williams is pretty much able to get to wherever he wants to on the court, and I think he has a repertoire of different moves that he's able to get to, which leads to my second point about his ball handling, where I think both parts kind of go hand in hand, where he's able to just get to pretty much anywhere on the court, as he can, utilize different crossovers, between the legs, behind the backs. He's pretty much able to do whatever he wants. I also like his sidestep. I think it's a shot that could develop into being, a consistent part of his repertoire that allows him to get open shots. And I think he's just overall able to get to his spots relatively quickly, and relatively efficiently. Now, I do think his shot selection can be a bit of an issue, and that is something that we will discuss later. However, Jalen Williams' ability to just get to his spots and get up and rise up over defenders and knock down shots, especially playing for Santa Clara, where he was pretty much the only player, really the only consistent threat out there, in my opinion, is very impressive. And I think his shot making does also lead into his pick and roll creation, not only for himself but also for others, right? Where Jalen Williams plays at his own pace. He's not the most athletic guy in the world. It's kind of weird. Jalen Williams is definitely an athlete. He's shown some flashes of being able to, put some guys on posters. However, for the most part, he's not all that laterally quick, and he's not explosive at all. Like in terms of being a live ball handler, right? So that led to Jalen Williams kind of having to develop to play at his own pace, utilize his smarts, kind of develop his IQ. And what I really like about Jalen Williams is able to put defenders on his back, kind of utilize that snake dribble, get them behind him, and then he's able to kind of bait out the big man, the defensive big man, and then he's able to thread needles and thread passes for his rolling big man out of pick and roll situations, which is something that I really like. And I think his playmaking is something that is very underrated about Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams is, as I just stated, he's able to thread needles, not only with his dominant hand in his right hand, but also with his left hand. And that's extremely impressive. There's not too many prospects in this class that can, make passes with either hand seamlessly, and Jalen Williams is one of those players. So you bode his playmaking with his potential shot creation, and I think you could be looking at a relatively very impressive offensive prospect, right? Moving on to the defensive side of the floor, where he's not a bad defender, but he's shown flashes. He's shown flashes where he's able to utilize that length that he has and stay in front of his man. It's not too often, but I think he's shown enough flashes here and there to the point where you can be like, all right, this is something that it's definitely something that he's going to have to work on, and something that it's more of a long-term project than something that will directly translate to the NBA. However, it's something that, given his physical profile and some of the tape that he has put out there, there's a reason to believe that he could become, at the very least, a neutral level point of attack defender, and if everything bodes well, potentially even a positive one. And that segment, or that statement, can also be related to his weak side defense, or really his help side defense in general, more so his weak side defense, where it's not necessarily consistent right now, but I think there's been a fair amount of plays where you can see Jalen Williams on the court, kind of looking at his ball and his man, splitting the court, fighting through off ball sets. And it's nice to see him at least, recognize his flaws and being able to, put forth effort. Like, you can see Jalen Williams on the court actually, being like, all right, my man's here, the ball's over here, making a conscious effort of being a better off-ball defender, which is something that, you like to see, a guy recognizing his flaws and being conscious of them while he's out there on the court. Moving on to some concerns I do have regarding Jalen Williams. First up, I do want to talk about his athleticism. As I mentioned before, he's not the best in terms of being a lateral athlete, and he doesn't necessarily have that quick burst, which hurts him, because sometimes Jalen Williams has to do too much, or hit his defender with a bunch of crossovers, and then sometimes he doesn't even get anywhere with that, simply because he just doesn't have that second gear that he can kick into when he does hit them with the move, so he can just get past his defender easily, right? He just doesn't have that in his athletic profile, which hurts. It definitely hurts his ability to be an efficient self-creator at the next level. I think this also leads into my second point of he's not an above the rim finisher, which I feel like it's concerning. It's really concerning for me. And don't get me wrong, Jalen Williams at the collegiate level was a great finisher at the rim. I believe he was second in the Western Conference division in attempts at the rim, only behind Drew Timme. He shot about 66% at the rim and was only assisted on 35% of those shots, which is great. That's awesome. That's about as good as you can ask for, right? But he's just not an above the rim finisher. And, I feel like at the NBA level, like, I don't know too many finishers at the NBA level that are good finishers that aren't, above the rim finishers. And, you really see that with guards, and they really struggle. Like, a player that I always think about is RJ Barrett, right? RJ Barrett, for my New York Knicks, has 6'6", 220 pounds, right? 6'6", 6'7", right? But RJ is just not an above the rim finisher. And, RJ gets to the rim at will. I've pretty much watched everything. RJ Barrett gets to the rim at will, right? But the problem with RJ Barrett is just he is just one of the worst volume finishers at the rim in the NBA. He's just one of the worst. And I think a large part of that is because RJ Barrett, don't get me wrong, RJ Barrett isn't, he's a little bit shorter than Jalen Williams, and he doesn't have the wingspan that Jalen Williams has, but RJ Barrett is just not an above the rim finisher. And I think that really hurts RJ Barrett in terms of finishing amongst the trees, right? And I think you could really see a similar problem with Jalen Williams. So you combine him not being an above the rim finisher with not having that burst to really get by defenders efficiently or quickly, and I think it's going to hurt him at the NBA level in terms of his finishing at the rim and just his self creation. And I think that kind of hampers his ceiling a little bit, in my opinion, despite the good finishing numbers at the collegiate level. And the next part is I want to talk about the release on his shot on the offensive side of the floor, where it's fine. The mechanics of his shot are fine, but his shooting hand is just a bit low for me. And I think it worries me. It definitely worries me. He wasn't necessarily all that efficient from mid range. And I think a large part of that is because his release is so low. And I think, raising that, given his wingspan, could really help him in terms of his efficiency because, 6'7" with a 7'2" wingspan, nobody's going to really be able to contest that shot or block that shot all the time, right? So I think raising that release on his jump shot could really help his self-creation abilities at the NBA level. And then finally, the defense. I mean, the defense is a big problem. It's really a big problem. Even though, again, he has shown flashes both as a point of attack defender and as a weak side defender, it's just inconsistent. I think he can get beat off the dribble a fair amount. He doesn't have great lateral footwork either, not necessarily laterally quick, and he doesn't have great footwork to go with that either, right? Like if a ball handler will hit him with a drop cross, Jalen Williams' feet will fumble, right? Like let's say the ball handler has the ball on his left side, and when you drop cross, that basically means you step to the side that the ball was just in your hand. So let's say I'm dribbling with my left hand, right? And then I hit them with a drop cross. So now I'm going to step here and then attack with my right hand, right? So if you hit that with Jalen Williams, that means that his left foot, he's going to go all the way over. And his footwork is very sloppy right now. So that's something that he really needs to clean up. Not only that, but when he switched out on the big man, he can get attacked a fair amount. I think he really needs to work on his lower body strength. And I think, again, his off-ball awareness, both as a strong side defender and I think as a strong side defender, there's a lot of upside there just because of his length. I think he should be able to pick off ball handlers driving towards him, and that's not something that he does enough. So I think that's something that he definitely needs to work on as well. And then as a weak side defender, just being more consistent in terms of being aware and continuing to recognize where your ball and the man is, right. And that's something that he's definitely gotten better at, but that's something that he's going to have to continue to work on as well. Moving on to Jalen Williams' outlook at the NBA level. First up, I do want to talk about his floor, which I see being, a middle of the rotation spark plug. And this floor is, his starting point at the NBA level. And if nothing else improves him in his game, this is what I see Jalen Williams being. And I believe this just because I think he's going to struggle on the defensive side of the floor at the NBA level. I think he can get attacked in mismatches, struggle to guard players on ball. And I think with all the off-ball motion sets that a lot of these NBA teams are running nowadays, I think Jalen Williams will definitely struggle at the beginning to kind of recognize these sets and kind of get around them and whatnot. So I think he's definitely going to struggle on the defensive side of the floor, right? Be a strong negative there. And I think on ball, he's going to flash, some of that shot creation and the playmaking that he did show at Santa Clara. However, given some of the concerns that I do have with him as a finisher and just being able to consistently beat players off the dribble, I think both of those things are going to limit him to start his NBA career. And I see him being, a middle of the rotation spark plug, a guy who's, your seventh, eighth man, maybe, the eighth, ninth man off the bench, come in, get hot here and there. And again, could Jalen Williams be a starter? Could he be thrusted into a starting role depending on whatever team he ends up on? Like if he's drafted by, let's say, I don't know, Cleveland, and I don't know, maybe Colin Sexton doesn't come back. Could I see Jalen Williams starting right away? Sure. But do I expect him to be, a net positive player? Absolutely not. So I see his floor realistically being, a middle of the rotation, spark plug player off the bench for whatever team he does end up on. Moving on to his median outcome, which I do believe to be a sixth man or, decent, solid starter. And I believe this because I think, or in order to reach his medium outcome, I think he will have to improve his defense a little bit to, be a net neutral. I don't know if he'll ever be, a strong positive, but just given some of the limitations that we've already discussed. However, developing a little bit to not be such a negative on the defense side of the floor that I project him being on the at the NBA level will definitely help with this. And I think improved efficiency, kind of learning to not take such difficult shots that he does have a habit of taking, and again, flashing the playmaking that he does have in the shot creation, as well as I think he can improve as a finisher at the rim. I think he's definitely shown flashes of being able to be an above the rim finisher. However, it's been very seldom, right? So I think bringing out some of that and not being a complete non above the rim finisher will definitely help Jalen Williams be that median or reach this medium outcome where he'll come in, not be a net negative defensively, and kind of help out your team, be a decent third guard for whatever team he does end up with if he does reach this outcome, right? And my ceiling for Jalen Williams is as a quality starting guard, and I believe that he can reach this ceiling due to becoming a reliable secondary creator. In order for him to become a quality starter, I think the playmaking has to take a leap. I think he has to be a 4-2-5, maybe even 6 assist guy at the NBA level. I think that's what's going to have to happen for him to be an efficient secondary creator. And the shot creation is right. He's going to have to cut out some of those ugly shots that he does have a habit of taking, some of those unnecessary shots, and the finishing at the rim is going to have to be better. It's, again, the numbers were great at college, but he's going to have to prove himself to be an efficient finisher at the NBA level, given some of the limitations that we have already discussed. So aside from that, the defense would have to improve in this situation, in this outcome as well, right? It would have to improve. There's no way around it. And yeah, I mean, if he can reach this outcome and be maybe a net neutral, maybe slightly positive defender, and then be an efficient secondary creator for whatever team he ends up on at 6'7", that's a very solid player. We're looking at a very, very quality starter player, and I think that's about it with Jalen Williams. I mean, I'm not crazy high on him. I know a lot of people love him, but I think this is about fair, just given all those limitations and given his age. I think all these outcomes are pretty realistic and fair for Jalen Williams. And for my comparison, I decided on shades of Shake Milton and Cade Cunningham. Now, don't freak out about Cade Cunningham. I'm not saying that he's going to end up anything remotely close to Cade Cunningham, because he's not Cade Cunningham. But I do see some similarities in the way that they play in terms of being more so of a secondary creator, right? Cade is more so suited to be a secondary creator, a fluid, taller guard who has a smooth self-creation skill set. He reminds me of Cade Cunningham in that way, kind of similar. Just viewing them, he kind of reminds me of Cade a little bit, and I think more so as a player mold, he reminds me of Shake Milton, given the fact that for all these outcomes that I do have of him, Jalen Williams is more so going to look like a rotate or a player coming off the bench, and a player that can get hot, run your offense a little bit, not. And despite his length, isn't the best of defenders, and that's pretty much Shake Milton. So a better version of Shake Milton, and he reminds me a little bit aesthetically of Cade Cunningham. But overall, I don't mind Jalen Williams. I like him. I'm a bit lower on him than the consensus. However, there's a lot to like with him. I do have him currently as a top 20 prospect. I have him right outside the lottery. I have him about 16th, 17th on my big board. And my previous mock draft, I had him going 21 to the Memphis Grizzlies, which I think is a fair selection or is a fair drafting landing spot for Jalen. And if he does land with Memphis, that would be a great situation for him to develop throughout his career. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about Jalen Williams in the comment section below. Do you guys think I'm about right with him, having him right outside the lottery, maybe an early 20s guy? Do you guys think he should be, closer to the top 10, or maybe even a late first round, early second round guy? Let me know what you guys think about Jalen Williams in the comment section below. And aside from that, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have subscribed, please share the video with a friend. Want to keep growing the channel, keep growing the community that we have here. And again, aside from that, that's the end of the video, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day and take care. Peace.